So when you talk about this concept of power, most people will see themselves not having it, but being out of power, or other people have it and I don't. And what are some of the factors that lead people to feel like they're out of power? So one of the ones is just level. I'm only in this position. So being in this position, how can I be in power? So-and-so has the authority. So that can lead people to feel as though they're out of power. The second one is just change. So I can feel like I'm in power and now things are starting to shift. So what I'm used to, how I used to navigate was very known to me. The tables have changed a little bit and I don't feel that same level of comfort and connected. So that's giving me a feeling of being out of power. The third one is based on dimensions. So when you are different, and that difference could be generational, you're the only woman on the team, the only ethnic diversity, maybe a different sexual orientation, lesbian, gay, even a different work style. I'm more introverted and I'm on the field cohort and everybody else is extroverted. So whatever that difference may be, it'll feel like those with the more common style have the power and I'm not nearly as respected or seen at an equal level. And then the next one is just relationships. And this is a big one that's been going on for years. And I don't think it'll ever go away, but just who you know. And not only who you know, but who knows you. And sometimes when we're not even feeling a sense of power, if you don't have the right relationships, you'll think your viewpoint isn't valued. You'll think, well, when they say something, people see it more effectively or more importantly than when I do. And then the last one, which can also come up, is function. I am not in the powerful function. Everybody around here loves sales. Everybody around here loves finance. And so if I'm not in that appropriate function, or that function isn't getting the attention, isn't getting the budget, doesn't come up as much in operational meetings, you feel as though you're losing power. So these are just real ways that show up as an obstacle to power. Not to say you're losing it, but the key thing, these components will make you feel out of power. Yeah, privilege is a topic that's close to my heart. I think it's the topic that really drove me to another level of consulting capability once I really understood it and was able to kind of live in it as I do the work. But at the same time, what I've also realized as I do the work, there are many challenges that lead people to not feel as though they're privileged. In some ways, we all have privilege, but what are some of the things that make us feel like, wow, I don't have it? So one of the first ones that comes up is comparison. So depending on who you compare yourself to, it's easy to feel like you're out of privilege. Most of us, when we think of the concept, we think of Bill Gates, we think of George Bush, Donald Trump, all of these individuals who have great wealth, great importance in society. So since I'm not them, I'm not privileged. We don't think of some of the more common components, but we look at those who are at a much higher level of existence or influence, and therefore how can I be privileged in this kind of situation I'm in where I see myself to be normal, for sake of a better word. So that comparison component will lead people not to believe they have privilege. One of the other things I believe that creates a challenge is what we overlook. Another way of thinking about the word overlook are the things that we take for granted. So one component of that is what we call simple gifts. Just the ability to walk, talk, see, hear. These are things that we've been doing all of our lives and we just see them as normal again. Everybody has them. The reality of the world, some people would love to see. Some people would love to be able to walk. But since it's considered what we call a natural gift or something that almost everyone have, we don't see that as privilege. Therefore, we don't receive it in that way. The other one, which is probably bigger again, is this concept of key relationships. I tell a story once. I was in an organization and they were promoting me, and someone said that, I asked the question, which I frequently do, what was behind the promotion? And they said, we talked to this individual, Charlie. So I said, Charlie? I said, who's Charlie? He said, you don't know Charlie? I said, I don't even know who he is. He said, he spoke so highly of me. I said, Charlie. So then they asked Charlie how he knew me. And Charlie had met me at a sales meeting, and he and I talked for 15 minutes at the buffet table. Now, I do spend a lot of time at the buffet table, so we extended that conversation. But the reality that our conversation hit him in a way where he went on talking about me very favorably, which was a part of my promotion. I didn't even remember his name. So key relationships, people knowing you, people you're connected to, people who can put that good word in for you. If there's any questions about you, if there's things you have made a mistake at, the power of those relationships are a privilege, and we'll believe what we gained on our own, and that had nothing to do with it. So it's another component that gets in the way of us receiving privilege. And then this next one, I have no understanding of how this might show up. It's called appearance. So for those of us who I don't see myself as part of, who happen to be good looking, it can be a scenario where you're just giving extra credit based on your appearance. You just sound better. You know, you may not be saying much that's different from anyone else, but because there's a pleasantry in looking at you, you get more credit for your words. Sometimes that can be attached to the smoothness of your style, can be part of your appearance, your credibility, your executive presence. All these things give people points, and some of us, not knowing, will say, look, I'm just good. Now, you're not just good, but people are giving you that credit. And I'm not saying those individuals who happen to be attractive don't have talent, but they take for granted the extra credit that they get when people are looking at them in a pleasant way. So these are things that often get overlooked. I do not want my main point to be that you are not talented, but these give you additional points that you will overlook and say, hey, I didn't really deserve those. This last piece of privilege we're going to talk about is probably the most challenging, and we call it uncontrollable. And uncontrollable privilege is just being who you are. Things as age, gender, ethnicity, you know, just who you are. And given extra points because you are part of society's norm. And because you're part of society's norm, you don't have an understanding of some of the challenges that others go through, and that becomes a privilege for you as it relates to how you're existing in the world. I tell a story once, a great colleague, a good friend too, he became, was an executive level leader in an organization and really was behind the concept of diversity and inclusion in a powerful way. White male, about 6'4", ex-athlete, great personality, loved by everyone, true champion to the effort. And so one of the things he hated though was employee resource groups. He thought they were divisive. He said, Doug, we really don't need those. I said, well, some people don't feel as included as you. They need to be supported and have conversation with those who are similar. He said, I really believe those are divisive. So I had a tough time convincing him. So he got promoted to Japan, and he became the leader of the operation in Japan. So he went to Japan, 6'4", white, semi-redheaded male. In 2 weeks, he created a white male affinity group in Japan. You know, so he didn't understand being different. Now, he was the lead person in the whole country, but still wanted support because of the differences he faced. And so if you're a fish and you're in water, you don't feel like you're wet. And so you have to get out of water to realize what difference is about. And sometimes we just have this privilege of just because of who we are. And we get a distorted viewpoint of some of the other things that people go through. We're not bad people. We just don't understand. And we don't need to feel guilty for not understanding, but we need to have that mindset to want to understand. What does it feel like to be young here? I was once young here, I'm not anymore. What is it like? What are the challenges you go through? What does it feel like to not be born in this country? What are the challenges you go through? So you're learning about it, not being judged because you don't know, but just be able to reach out and find out things. So these are things which are uncontrollable. It's hard for us to believe we have that privilege, but we do. Don't feel guilty about it. Go reach out and get it from other people.